What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome back to another video. I hope everybody's doing well, and hopefully you have checked out yesterday's video. If you haven't yet checked it out, do go watch that now. And yeah, let's dive straight into things. So we're going to start on the dollar as per usual. In all honesty, not much has changed in terms of my bias based off yesterday's analysis, so I do highly suggest you go check that out. But you'll see that today's been quite a very basic day, very classic in terms of us creating the low in the London session, high in the New York session, and then returning back to the equilibrium. This is very classic price action. So yeah, quite a nice day in general. And then what we also now have is that Sunday opening price, which is right here. So I'm going to drag that out throughout the week, because we're going to be looking at using this as a barometer for price to see how we treat it. So right now you can see our price is wicking above it, but look at how volume's respecting it. So it's bumping it currently. So we might find that we see some continued downwards price action, potentially looking at these Monday lows to trade on lower as we move into Tuesday. And the reason I'm saying that is because we failed to close above it today, even though we traded above it quite aggressively, running stops, and we've had this large displacement to the downside, filling in this fair value gap. So if price is going to trade lower, and if we are going to see this Monday price as a sell side liquidity target, there's a certain range which I want to draw our attention to. So let me just show you, and that range will be this inversion fair value gap which has formed. So here we are on the 1 hour. I will go up to the 4 hour as well, but the 1 hour, looking at price on a daily kind of time frame is probably the best to be on in terms of analysis. But what I'm looking at is this fair value gap. So you'll see our price created the gap, and then price is now traded up through it on the upside, downside, and you see how we're constantly going back and forth through it now. So as far as I'm concerned, if price continues to respect the 50% level off it, which is where we're literally sitting at right now, this should act as resistance and act as a signature in price to push it lower and run for this sell side liquidity. However, if we do trade back above it, I want to see it act as support. I'd be then looking for us to obviously run that Sunday opening price, and we can start looking at this gap which I spoke about in yesterday's video. So until this high of this inversion fair value gap gets violated, I'm remaining bearish on dollar with the expectation that we may want to run this sell side liquidity and dig a little bit deeper, and then maybe get a reversal later on in the week. So yeah, right now I just have my eyes set on this gap. I'd have this drawn out in my charts if I was you guys, just to see how price treats it. And like I said, look at how price is going back and forth in it. Eventually it's going to leave it. It'll probably leave it on the back of sentiment, and then it will rush for those Monday lows as a target. So that's currently how I'm looking at price. I do want to also bring our attention to the way we've tapped this level right here. This is a significant lows, which I spoke about in yesterday's video as well, these lows. And you can see how price literally traded into that today, almost, like touching it to say goodbye, like, okay, trade into it one more time, and now we've left it with some strong displacement and a lot of back and forth price action. So moving into tomorrow, what do I want to see? Again, I'm looking for us to respect this inversion fair value gap as such, so as a bearish fair value gap. And then if it goes to the 15-minute, not really much more, but you can see how we're just sitting in this consolidation. So I'd like to think we'd see a continuation and see price roll over and down into that sell side. I do like the way that we've ran these stops. These are relative equal highs above here, here, and here. So this is classic price action. Ran buy stops, tapped above that Sunday opening price, and then rejected it, and I've left it accordingly. So I'm still looking for price to continue to act in line with that. And then I'll look for that low, and then potentially this low as well, depending on how bearish we are. So that's everything on dollar. I hope that all makes sense. Let's go on GBP. In fact, let me just look at the daily on dollar. I haven't actually seen it yet. We'll go to the 4 hour first. Not really much to analyze other than the fact that this is a bearish order block, this is a bearish order block, and again, look at the volume of price. So this bearish order block has been respected by this, and this bearish order block is now being respected by this, because although we've wicked up into it, price is refusing to close above there. We're seeing a level of resistance, so it's managing to hold its own, which is quite nice to see. And then also we have this kind of gap, weird gap going on right here, and you can see our price is just staying on the lower end of that, because if we split that into quarters, you'll see our price is literally respecting the 25% level of that as well. So we're seeing continued respect of bearish PD arrays, meaning that we should remain bearish in our bias until proven otherwise. Until we see some large significant displacement to the upside, that would be the only point which I'd want to see this gap up here get filled, which I was speaking about yesterday. But until then, I'm happy to expect price to just roll over lower. Let's take a look at the daily real quick. Not really much going on, but yeah, let's head on to GBP USD. So we've had some beautiful expansion on GBP. We ran higher into the fair value gap, which I drew our attention to yesterday. We haven't quite filled it just yet. I wouldn't be surprised if we did manage to run these buy stops tomorrow and then fill the fair value gap and maybe start to see a pullback. Because obviously, if we're expecting dollar to potentially trade on lower, So if we expect more resistance on dollar, that means that GBP would have to carry on to wander higher. And obviously, this between the top of this red box and this buy side liquidity, hasn't been traded through on the upside. So that gives pound somewhere to trade to and fill in the new day. So it'll be nice to see if price can roll over up to the top of here, closing the fair value gap, and then I'd expect it to start pulling back maybe to the mid-range or 25% level. Similarly, we can look at the Sunday opening price, which is right here, drag that right through. I usually make it dotted and red accordingly. And you can see our price is going to be rallying above this Sunday opening price for a while, until I'm expecting us to potentially target it as we move into Wednesday or potentially Thursday on the back of high impact news. But yeah, interesting day to say the least. Look at how price is treating the fair value gap. We traded into it here, just above the 50% level, came down. Look at the respect of the low of the fair value gap. So we're inside of it and it's respecting it. So there's no reason for us to expect that. There's no reason for us to anticipate anything else. As in, now that we're inside it and we've seen respect like this, I'd like to think it can stay inside it until it's finished with it, in terms of running the buy stops above here that is created, engineered, and this buy stop, and then potentially filling the fair value gap up here. So that's just some food for thought. But the way that I'm looking at this respect, I'd like to think it'd be able to hold price. So these two down close candles are a bullish order block. So we'll draw that out, and then this will be the lowest I'd expect price to trade, 50% at the very most, for me to remain with a bullish bias on pound, with the expectation that it will rally. It doesn't have to even get all the way down here. Ideally it doesn't, but if it does, I'd expect it to be able to bounce out of it to keep trading higher. Or we can even split up the fair value gap itself, and you can look at that 25% level as well. But if we go up to the higher time frames, like the daily, we can see the fair value gap inside of a fair value gap right here. And again, this is something which hasn't been filled just yet, and you can see where the buy stops are. So we're going to be playing around until we manage to push through that 50% level and eventually fill it. So these are just a few things to take into account, assuming that dollar does roll over and trade lower and continue to treat this. Remember, this is an inversion fair value gap as such. So I hope that will make sense. We are going to finish up on Euro USD. Euro's a lot more similar to dollar in terms of price action. We can look at the Sunday opening price now, so we'll drag that through as well. Again, look at how price treats it, and then we've traded through it, bumping it again. And what's interesting about this is it's not as strong as we're seeing GBP is, and it's looking a lot more like dollar. So we do need to be a bit more patient with euro by the looks of things. I'd like to think that it can find the strength, and similarly to pound, to inversely to dollar, I'd expect this Monday high to be potentially targeted, but it's not looking the cleanest. So let's look at the 4 hours, see if we can find anything. Not much to go off here at all. Let's go to the 1 hour, and then similarly we have an inversion fair value gap that's formed right here, but you can see it's not really treating it as such, meaning that there's a weakness and we need to be careful. So when the pairs are this far off, especially euro and pound, pound significantly rallying, euro's messing around a little bit, and then dollar is also being questionable, I tend to just stay away. It is possible that this is hinting towards a complete pullback, like we might find that euro just displaces the downside very strongly, and then dollar finds strength and starts pushing up towards our original gap, which we spoke about. And we'll know when that happens because it will be on the back of high impact news. So yes, although I'm arguing like both sides at this point, it really is depending on how dollar is going to treat this inversion fair value gap. Because I can imagine we're going to consolidate within it for a while, and then we'll probably see a run on stops, and then we'd want to see expansion to one side. And although I'm looking at this sell side here and here, we could argue that today this failure to take out this sell side from this low is a sign of strength, especially the way it's broken higher here, and we're just trading around this breaker, low, high, lower, low, right? So if we look at this wick right here, drag that through, I want to show you the 25% level off that wick, and you can see that price came down and respected that almost perfectly. So the fact that it's done that could argue, for the buy side, suggesting that okay, tomorrow we might start to grab that strength, find support, and then want to trade higher, and that's completely fine. But again, mainly I'm just focused on this box, and once we leave it, we should be able to look for a setup around it, depending on the time of day, to either go short on the back of it or go long on the back of it. Yeah, quite complicated, but nonetheless should be an interesting day moving into Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's going to be everything, guys. I hope that all makes sense. It is very complicated right now, so do join the Discord. You guys are very active in there. You're all helping each other out, so definitely not something to miss out on. Don't forget to drop a like, drop a comment, smash subscribe, join the mailing list, join me over on Discord, and yeah, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.